How do you call this long journey?
The Camino Santiago. It's a very ancient hiking path, across whole Spain.
When you decide to go there, was it morning or middle of the night? Was you by yourself or surrounded by people?
I think it was in the middle of the night. I was studying for an exam, hated my life.
Why?
Why I hated my life back in the day? I was unhappy with a girl at that time. I was unhappy actually just with myself. Created a bad environment. And I had so many struggles with my family, so much hate in the relationship to my mom and with my dad. Anyway, I realized I want to get rid of the hate. I want to get rid of this bullshit because I realized it drags me down and I keep recreating those toxic relationship dynamics in different kinds of in different fields of my life, my friendships, with romantic settings. And then I read The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho, which was life-changing and carried a very deep wisdom in it.
Can you please give me any idea from that book? What makes
It's
you feel
about
life-changing?
It's about a shepherd who has his sheep and leads them across Spain, and eventually he meets a king who is in disguise, and he has some magic abilities and makes him to sell the sheep and go for his heart's wish. And Santiago, that's the name of the shepherd, he always dreamt about going to the pyramids. And it's a metaphorical image because he believed that there will be a treasure hidden at the pyramids, So the treasure is obviously metaphorical. So he dreamt of a case of gold, but it's like in the myths, you gotta follow your passion, slay the dragon, and then the dragon hoards the gold, kinda, And he then just sells his sheep, takes a boat, gets over to the African continent. First thing happens, he gets robbed.
Okay.
Then he has nothing and has to figure out a way. The whole timeline was off, and he has to find his own way, and he does. Eventually he gets in the desert. The desert gives him the greatest lessons, and he learns new abilities on how to listen to his intuition, on how to see things coming, and he falls in love, which is a very important aspect of his journey. And this woman makes him then follow his purpose, makes him go to the pyramids, even though he didn't want to leave her. And then he is at the pyramids, and then he finds it in a spectacular way. So it's a story about love. It's a story that the author wrote on the Camino Santiago itself, and it carries the whole energy of the Camino. So I was very impressed by the book. I felt it spoke directly through my soul. There's deep philosophical wisdom in there, and it was my go-to book to give to all my friends. Literally, I had a stack of them and just gave it to all my friends.
Have you found the treasure?
If I found my treasure,
Yes.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way, you know, it's a hero's journey. I found a lot of treasures. I had a lot of hero's journey. We all do. But like the big arc of my life, you know, is yet to be experienced. But I'm thankfully very able to go into the unknown and to let go of the known, because that's only where the treasures can be found, you know, only when we go into the unknown.
How different it was from the beginning of your journey and when you came back home?
How the Camino changed me.
Yeah, or maybe you was the same.
I was definitely not the same. When I went there, I had not a real spiritual clarity. I knew there was some kind of connection, but I couldn't define it. I didn't had a clear idea of it. I just knew it felt good going there. But when I was there, you know, you experience so many miracles, you experience so much connection. It's just too perfect and too much to be not believing, you know, because I think you can only be an atheist when you are not making the life experience and when you close yourself off. And when I was there, it was just in any way, in every single way imaginable, insightful, you know, with myself, with other people, with life itself, with the world. I experienced every single emotion. I worked through so much stuff. I became so much happier as a result of that. But I was still an idiot.
Okay.
But at least I improved. But yeah, first thing that happened when I went home, and that was hard because on the Camino you experience the greatest degree of freedom imaginable. And the first thing that happened when I came home was I had my plans for the future and everything, and the first thing was a Corona lockdown.
Okay.
After one day, you know, I knew how I want to set up my life. I knew what I want to do. I wanted to be brave, going into the unknown, but then Corona lockdown and couldn't do anything, and that was bad. And that made me really depressive in that winter. That was bad. But it was all necessary.
And somehow you increase your capacity before lockdown, so you was ready for this winter.
You know, after the lockdown and after that winter, I just did it again. You know, I just did another Camino then. But the second one was very different to the first one. Second one was way more in solitude, way more in suffering. Much, much harder.
But was it more fruitful?
It was a perfect combination from the first to the second. It had all the elements that the first one didn't have. Yeah, it was. You know, like when you are alone on a mountain and carry this 35, 40 pound backpack, like 20 kilo, and at some point you just can't walk anymore. And I'm not saying I was tired, I said I literally couldn't walk anymore. Like I could feel the electronic signal coming from my brain and stopping here in my hip, and I was like trying to move my leg and it was just not possible. You know, I was walking and then all of a sudden I feel it stops here, and then I was like, I couldn't walk anymore. And you're somewhere on a mountain going down on a street, you know, cars driving by, and you just have to sit at the side of the street, you know, and just make sure and just think about how in the fuck am I going to handle this, you know, like what should I do? And those kind of things happen all the time, you know. You get like real problems and you solve them, and as a result you grow.
How did you solve that?
I sat down, I relaxed. I made sure my hip could relax, and then I got myself to the next village, which was like 1 or 2 kilometers away, and then I stayed there for 2 days. Because I pushed myself too much before, you know, I met cool people and I liked being with them, and they were already walking for a few months, and I wanted to keep up with them, and I did, but eventually my body just said no, you know, and yeah, then I said goodbye and, you know, stayed in the village for a few days, for 1.5 days, and then I continued.